Well, welcome everybody to our next episode in Adding the Impact. I am especially pleased today because I have a beautiful friend joining me on Adding the Impact Plus. Sharon has been in my life now for, oh my gosh, I want to say it's probably 15, 16 years, I'd say, at this point in time. She actually married our 3 children. Well, we're done. That's it. The next lot will be grandkids. But Sharon has just been such a pivotal impact in my life. This woman breeds impact. And so I was just thrilled that she was actually open to joining me on the podcast to be able to have a chit chat about that. Before you get to know her even more, I want to tell you a little about her from an official bio kind of perspective. Sharon O'Neill is a multifaceted individual embodying roles as a small pastor, enneagram coach, social worker, and advocate for women and children. Her passions extend to her family, including her granddaughter, now husband, as well as the beauty of nature. We are both officially in the grave and we love it. She thrives on meaningful conversations at the table, preferring depth over superficial. A decade ago, she navigated the challenges of finding her voice and identity, breaking free from societal constraints. Amidst the trials of establishing a social enterprise and advocating for modest groups, Sharon discovered the importance of self-discovery and community support. Now she continues her pastoral and entrepreneurial endeavours while investing significant time in guiding individuals towards understanding their true selves. Sharon finds fulfillment in witnessing others experience moments of self-realization and empowerment. Her mission revolves around fostering environments where individuals can authentically express themselves, believing that such authenticity fosters love and positive change in the world. Tell you from firsthand experience, all of my journey that has been with Sharon, I have learned so much, but also learned just about myself because of the way she guided me. And it's been empowering, all different stages of the journey. And you've also blessed our kids and friends and that as well with your wisdom. Thank you so much for being here, my beautiful friend.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. It's always fun having a conversation, especially in your world. Your world's so exciting.
Our worlds are equally exciting in different ways.
Yeah.
Different ways. I was just speaking with James here actually earlier on, and I was just saying that things and get in there. But one of the things I absolutely truly love about you is how you can be present in a conversation. Truly, I think that I've tried to model. I don't always get a. I'm not as skilled as you at being able to be in the moment, and that's whether you are sitting in a business meeting, doing a business plan or training, right to you may be sitting in a courthouse beside somebody, supporting them, or at a hospital bed. For you, was it something that you learned, or it's just been an inheritance that you've had about being able to be just totally present and hearing and being and empathetic towards people?
Well, some of it's my enneagram type. So I'm a 2 on the enneagram. So I'm a considerate helper, which means I lean towards the intuition, being able to pick up and read the layers that people are feeling, experiencing in life. And it means that I am naturally wired and attuned to what's going on in a person's world. But I wouldn't say that all my life I have been able to either handle that gift or direct that gift or be able to be as present as probably what I am now. Some of that I think too is just the stage of life. I just think that there are some things in the first stage of life that you're not good at, that you're good at in the second act of life, the second act that we get to live. There is some beauty that comes with that second act, and your first half is about learning who you are and about making mistakes and having a go at everything. And then I think also suffering teaches you, in our culture we want to run from suffering, but suffering's been my greatest teacher. And when you've experienced suffering, I think that gives you, if you learn the lessons well, when grief comes knocking at your door, if you answer the door well and you do the hard work, I think it develops something on your soul so that then you can sit and give the gift of presence. So I think it's a combination of things. Plus, I'm a Christian, so I kind of go, I believe in the Holy Spirit, so I just believe the Holy Spirit's changing me as well, and I believe that God is just this God of love. So hopefully the older we get and the more in tune we get with our spiritual side, we become more like God.
I love that. I love that. And it's like we are aging like a wine, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be a vinegar. That's the thing. You see old people and they're either vinegar or they're red wine. I'd rather be a red wine than a vinegar. I just don't want to be that woman.
Absolutely. It's from the two women drink, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I want to go back to what you said, because I love, and another word for suffering for, some of the listeners, it might be, because, suffering for some people, they might kind of go, what is that, whatever, or whatever like that. It's the same thing as business. It's, you will have the trials and tribulations. We got in business, you have the ups and the downs, you have lows, you have what some people call failures. But at the end of the day, they are, and I agree, my greatest lessons have been actually the tough times. They really have. You get to, should you take the time? And I think the other point there was super important, that oftentimes when the lessons of failures come, grief comes, the suffering comes, whatever it may, our society is a little bit like, oh, push that away from that. Like that doesn't be where you're meant to be. That you need to kind of go over here now. Yeah. And my motivation over it has been that if you don't deal with it here, it's popping up over here.
Yeah, yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, we take ourselves wherever we are. But it's hard. It's hard when hard times come, because it's sort of hard to work out all the layers, isn't it? It's like in business, you get a P&L and you're reading your P&L or you're looking at your bank statement and it's not where you wanted it to be, and you kind of go, what else could I do? And at first you go to that place of failure and you go to, I just can't do this, I'm not wired for this, or the company's not empowering me, or whatever. We can go through all that, but when we actually go down into the deeper layers, then we learn the lessons, and then we can either make the decision to have one more go at it, or we make a decision, okay, maybe I need to go somewhere else or do something else. Yeah, but it's getting I think layers.
Yeah, it's been, been through those challenges, and, being in business or personal life, through both grief or through just business, and that too. And I think one of the powerful things that I have learned, and you've been teaching me this, is the power, and you mentioned on, in knowing yourself. At the end of the day, I talk about, because today we expand on when you know who you are, everything is. And I witnessed that, and there's a part of me, I suppose, once I became aware that this timing is always perfect, and there's always and everything. However, there was that to understand the enneagram, and when you worked with myself and with Mick, that it was like, oh gosh, I wish I had earlier, or both myself from a business perspective, but also as a couple.
Yeah.
So being able to gift on then to our kids has actually been powerful, because I've seen it play out then in them having a much better understanding. Attracted you to Enneagram in the first place? And can you actually, for people who may never have heard of what Enneagram actually is, can you explain that?
Yeah, so the Enneagram's a tool, and it is only a tool, and it helps you understand who you are. So according to the Enneagram, there are 9 personality types, and you kind of sit on a wheel, and each Enneagram type has both a shadow side as well as a strength side. And the reason I love the Enneagram is because unlike some of the other personality testing, like I've used Myers-Briggs, Strength Finder, DISC, all those ones, they kind of describe the box that you're in, but they don't necessarily describe how you might be able to get out of the box and become more rounded, or how you can lean into the strengths of other personality types, or even how you can grow. So with the Enneagram, as far as I'm aware, it's really the only personality testing tool that we have which actually deals with growth and allows you to develop the box that you're in. It says that you're in a box, but it also gives you understanding of how you can actually get out of the box in some ways, and how you can grow and how you can develop. And I love growth. I'm a curious person. I am an incredibly curious, and I want to learn everything I can. I think learning is just such a beautiful gift we've been given. So I just want to learn everything I can, not only about myself, but about other people. I just find people fascinating and curious.
Yes. And it is a fascinating thing.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the more aware you are of who you are, and the more aware you are of someone else's, empathy just goes up, like compassion and empathy, which is love. And love's the most powerful force we still have on the planet. And I just kind of go, if we all just sort of got to know ourselves a little bit better, maybe the world would be a little bit more peaceful and happy.
I love that. Because it's true. Because you do have that understanding of, firstly, who you are. And, yes, whatever the box might be, but also then how you can lean to, I think you call it the wings, is that kind of thing, lean into those different areas. But also then you get to understand why other people, when you know what they're in, why they operate in a certain way, or why they may need certain things that, because I can be, when I'm in my, if I'm head down, bum up, I'm moving 20 million miles an hour kind of thing, I can't understand why everybody else is. I mean, come on. They're all eights of the Enneagram. And it's like, it helped me understand it. It made me realize, oh my gosh, they're not an 8, but they're this. So they're going to bring this to the table. And that's really, really good. So I just need to be a little more patient or understanding that they're going to operate in that way, but they're going to be able to get probably better results how they get a certain problem or solution or whatever like that, and as opposed to how I should in circumstances. Yes, they're going to need my 8 at some times, but we're also going to need a 2 or a 1, whatever like that, to be stable. So it may operate in a slightly different, to remind myself at times, but also especially then in my relationship with Mick as well, just being able to relate to one another in a different way as well, have a different understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Enneagram's powerful when it comes to couple relationships, because you just have all these aha moments go on. Like, for example, if you're married to a 1, the 1s are our perfectionists. They wake up already with a critic in their head. They wake up with this voice in their head which is telling them that they've got everything's wrong, and all the things that they should have done the day before that they haven't done. And so, sometimes a 1 can be grumpy in the morning and it's because they've already got that critic in their head. And so if you're a partner of a 1, to not take that personally if they're grumpy in the morning, but maybe to meet a 1 with something positive or cheerfulness, then it takes that focus off that critic that's happening. Also for the 1, knowing that, being grumpy in the morning, understanding what's happening there, that it's not that the world's falling apart or that your life's falling apart. It's just that you've got this critic that's going on in your head that somehow you have to try and tone down and ignore if you want to enjoy a little bit of life. So it's just so powerful in terms of helping people understand one another as well as themselves. And it just gives you tools. You know, you're empowered to make change. You're empowered to love yourself. You're empowered to love others. You're empowered to be compassionate. You've got a tool in your hand that you can utilise.
So getting to know yourself even better, if we come to you, and I know that you really stepped in, we talked about it in the intro as well, how you went into navigating, finding your own voice. So you're in church, and it can be interesting, just like in business, when it comes to female pastors and female leaders and the stand to be able to make, how sometimes we can be seen, like if we're a woman with a voice, and this can be starting to change in business, but it still has been slow, and it's exactly the same in church, where you can be seen as, I'm trying to think of nice words to use kind of thing, but you can be seen as somebody that they rather was quiet and just, being in the corner or whatever like that. Understanding yourself even more, how does that help you actually find your space? Because you're a massive advocate for so many different groups of people. Canberra, like you have no problem with making sure that your voice is heard, your opinion is heard, in a full way. And that I don't know anyone as good at you as you when it comes to the written word and cutting that down on paper, your thoughts down on paper in a respectful way, but in a way that gives a voice to the most. How did you step into that? Like, I'm assuming the first part of that journey was really getting to you.
Yeah, it was painful the first half of my life. I just didn't really understand what I was coming up against. Patriarchy, misogyny. It infiltrates all of our culture, the church included, unfortunately. And so it was very difficult because I would take everything personally and be... So as a two, you're intuitive to what other people are feeling and thinking, and at the end of the day, you want them to love you. As a two, we want everyone to love us. And so when they don't love what you have to say or they don't love how you show up, for the first half of my life, I would take that quite personally, thinking that there was something wrong with me, that somehow I was too loud, too abrupt, too, I don't know, not loving enough, not caring enough, not compassionate enough, not. But as you get older and you start to really understand what issues are, like when we understand that women are living with that double bind where if they are assertive, they're seen as being extra loud compared to a man. But if they're not assertive, then nothing changes either. And so they can't be themselves. So understanding the dynamics of what's happening both in our world, both at a systematic or a structural level, as well as on an interpersonal level, it just helps you be yourself. And I love what Brené Brown says. She says you can't belong anywhere until you belong to yourself. And it's quite a powerful statement because we often want to make people belong. You got to make somebody belong to an organisation or a place of employment or a church or somewhere like that. But often where we come unhinged isn't anything often of what we do for somebody else. It's the fact that that person hasn't actually they haven't found how to belong to themselves yet. And so until you can belong to yourself, it's hard to have a voice. And that means being comfortable in your own skin. And I mean, I love speaking up for the vulnerable and the marginalised, and especially in this climate, I think the vulnerable and the marginalised are doing it tough. And the one thing I do have is a voice, and I think women in Australia don't understand how powerful we are. We have amazing education. We're incredibly wealthy. I know that at the moment people might feel the pinch, but you know what, we are incredibly wealthy when you consider, I think it's nearly 52 million people on our planet at the moment are starving from food, let alone the number who are being impacted by conflict. And Australian women, you know, like when I compare it, say, to countries like even the US, we have incredible freedom of opportunity. And so I don't think we understand our power or our voice. And I kind of go, I've in this stage of life where I know who I am, I'm willing to be misunderstood for the
Yeah.
sake of the marginalised. Yeah. But it takes
I love that.
work. You've got to be willing to do the work.
You have to be. But you do, Sharon. I mean, I think that's the thing. People want to be at a certain space, but they've not gone, like they're looking at our chapter 50. And yet they're at their chapter 10 or 15 and they want to be there already, but they've got to actually be prepared to do the work and on the journey. But I also think, too, there was a really important statement that you said there, you're prepared to be misunderstood. And sometimes that's the thing. I know for myself, I held my voice for so long. I might have been, seemingly successful in business. There were lots of times when I had my voice, fear of being misunderstood or for fear of not being liked or, not being loved or whatever, those kind of things. And they turn into the not good enough stories. And so many of us have those not good enough stories, and female, and that, but in our profession of direct sales, it's primarily women, and it's a massive opportunity for us to be able to get to know ourselves, because there's so much training and development that's on. Not everybody's prepared to step into it, to do the action that actually takes the courage, and then to make the mistakes and pick yourself up again and learn through that so that you can get to that point. You go, I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin. And so, not everybody's going to get it. But I think the other thing that comes with being okay with being misunderstood is actually really understanding the passion. Like, what is it that you actually is important to you?
Yeah.
Because if it's nothing to you, there isn't something that you actually want to speak into or whatever like that, then you won't take the courage steps. Understood.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think also, like with direct selling, you have to ask some questions around why direct selling has the image that it has, given the dollar industry that it actually is and its contribution to our economy. And if you're in that industry, then I kind of go, you have an obligation to advocate for the industry and to be savvy about that, not just thinking about yourself, but also thinking about your fellow sister, because it's a sisterhood in a sense, because like you said, the majority are women, and you are battling all sorts of things, like in terms of image, being seen as a legitimate business model, that it's not that it's not all the negatives of a pyramid selling scheme, and just because it doesn't have a location, like a building location, doesn't make it any different to any other kind of business that's out there. So I think that you do have to advocate, because I think it's a legitimate, and it's been a legitimate business from the day dot. Like if you go back to history, it's there. It just looked different. It just, women have been selling from their homes since the world began, I think.
Because the barter system, there was all of the different things, and it was primarily, the women that would bake the bread and go sell it or whatever like that, like that right from day one kind of thing. There was probably party plans happening. It was just a different name, and then plastic bowls and everything else kind of thing. And of course, with the the advent of the web, social media, and then all of those kinds of things, it just took different forms. But I actually loved what you said too, because one of the areas I have recognized over the years, and even for myself in my own journey, it wasn't until I understood and really believed that this was a legitimate business model that I was proud of being a network marketing professional. That was when everything shifted. And so I could, stand very confidently in that space. And it was okay. I was actually in that arena. I was prepared to be misunderstood. If people didn't like it, that's okay. Them, that's okay. But as long as I knew that I could carry myself with integrity and do things the right way, like in all professions, there are bad players.
Oh, it's totally.
A profession. It doesn't make any difference whether it's the church, whether it's teaching, whether it's police, whether it's government, whether it's direct sales. There will be players. That doesn't mean that you can stand with pride around who you are. But again, I think it also comes with that courage to that does come with getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
When I got to understand I'm 8 and all that carries with it, it to me to see why I am where I am and why I am who I am, and that it's. Can you give us a little overview of maybe a couple of the numbers that seem to come up a lot when you are working with people in business, and maybe just a little bit of an insight?
Yeah, well, they all come up. So maybe if I just do a quick run around and you just interrupt if you want to land one. So your peacemakers, they're at the top of the Enneagram wheel, and they're your nice, beautiful people who are always nice, and they bring harmony, and they can see everybody's viewpoint. The problem with the 9 is in the workplace anyway, it can be your yes isn't always a yes, and your no is not always a no. So you can go into a meeting and everybody can think that you've agreed to something. You walk out the door and you'll find that the 9 is having a conversation. Oh, what did you think about that? I don't know that I agree with that. And they find it really hard to voice what they want. And so sometimes they can come over passive-aggressive rather than just being upfront. So that's one of the things that a 9 just has to learn. But their gift they bring is peace, and the gift that they bring is unity and cohesion and connection and relationships. So they're amazing. Your 1s are your perfectionists. So they're like the reformers. They're the ones, they're just incredible. Like they're great. Social media, my daughter's a 1. She does our social media, her attention to detail and the process that they think through in terms of signing off on something. They're also very ethical and moral people. So, in direct selling, they're great because they won't be one of those bad eggs in direct selling. The thing with a 1 is that they've got that critic, like I've already said. So they don't need a performance review. They've already got that going on in their head all the time. What they do need to hear is what they're doing really well. Your 2s are your considerate helpers. When we're thinking about direct selling or in business, they're often the people who are really good at sales. They're the ones that will form the relationships. They're the inviters. They'll go and connect with new people, and they quite enjoy that, and they'll bring those new people into the business kind of thing. So they're great with that because they understand the intuition. They can sense where somebody's maybe got a need and how a product might meet a need. So they're really good that way. The problem with the 2 is they're always looking to be loved. So they don't handle rejection well. And sometimes they don't realise that somebody doesn't want their help. They can keep going back for the sale when the person's actually closed the doors rather than looking for a new sale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Your next one, your 4s on the Enneagram are your creative. So if you think of your musicians or your artists, that kind of person, they're very emotional people. They have very high highs, very low lows. incredibly creative. So again, in direct selling, you would see that they would be creative in terms of how they would sell. But again, they kind of do this push-pull thing where they can draw closer. They might go all out on a sales thing and maybe they get a few rejections and then they don't try anything for another month or two. So they're kind of constantly doing this push-pull thing. So that, it's part of the challenge is to learn how to manage that. Your quiet specialists are your fives, and they're probably the most innovative of all the Enneagram types. If you think of Bill Gates, for example, he would be an Enneagram 5. So they're constantly thinking through products or, they're thinking about how does something work? How can I improve it? How can I make it better? How can I make a system better? How can I... So they're incredibly creative, incredibly pioneering, but they can get bogged down because they're always in their head. So they're not always in tune with what's happening elsewhere. And because they do like their quiet corner, they can just stay in their quiet corner and think until the cows come home rather than getting out and actually just doing something. And then you've got your sixes on the Enneagram, who are your loyalists. So they're highly relational, very loyal people. Once you've onboarded a six, they're incredibly loyal. Once you've gained their trust, they can be mistrustful to begin with, but they love routine, they love relationships, they're just amazing in that way. And then you've got your enthusiast visionaries, your sevens. And these are the fun people. These are the people with all the energy and fun and laughter. They're the people that turn up with balloons everywhere. They're just always positive.
Love it. Love it.
The problem is that if you hit a wall or if they hit a wall or if they hit a problem, they won't necessarily naturally want to go down into the layers to kind of figure out, okay, what went wrong there. And then you've got your eights, which are your challengers or your active controllers. They have the most amount of energy on the Enneagram. They can come out really forceful, firing, goal-oriented. And some people can get intimidated by them because they can feel like they're steamrolled by them. But underneath, they're just pussycats. And if you stand up to them, they actually see that as a sign of intimacy because you actually want to deal with a real issue, and so then you can actually become quite close with them. But what they're actually able to achieve on the planet is just amazing. And I think I missed out the 3. I did, but I missed the 3, which is your competitive achiever. And again, they next to an 8, a 7, and a 3, they both have similar energies, not quite the same as an 8, but the competitive achievers are, your success-driven people who want to succeed. They're able to walk into any room and figure out how to communicate. Their communication gift is just phenomenal, just amazing communication gift. The problem with a 3 is that sometimes they can be quite, deceitful is probably not quite the right word, but they're so success-driven that they forget to do the internal work and to be real. So they can come out salesy, do you know what I mean? Like just real sales person, schmoozy sales, rather than real.
I love it. And it's like, and again, that's that overview of it. And I'm sure as some of you are listening to this, you kind of go, oh, that could be me. Oh, that could be me. What I'm working through this with Sharon after doing the actual assessment and then having that coaching on with Sharon, begin and you realise that, yes, you definitely are in, like I'm an 8 and I could see so many things. And also the power of this was kind of going, okay, how can I lean into, my 9 and my 7 or even in some things just learning about it. It really does take that next piece of the journey of really knowing yourself. Because like Sharon, like you have so many different ones over the years, the use in them all.
Yeah.
But I have to say the one that has been the most powerful and impactful for our family, I will say, even in the first instance, has actually been the Enneagram. Even kids understand one another, and that as well, I think, has been powerful. And knowing it even earlier is true is to self.
Yeah, because it tells you, it gives you indicators of, what triggers, and, what stress points, because every Enneagram type responds to stress differently and finds different things stressful. The same with the communication, the way in which they communicate is really different. The way in which we do conflict, each Enneagram both responds to conflict as well as does conflict differently. So, yeah, it's just a journey of getting to know who you actually are. And that can be quite frightening. I know a lot of people, when they get their Enneagram report back, often they're kind of feeling uncomfortable with parts of it, because, again, it raises the shadow side, and we're uncomfortable in our culture with this concept of maybe not everything about me is great. Maybe some things need to be toned down, or some things need to be worked on, or maybe I just need to stop doing some things. And we don't have great language around that anymore. And yet it is actually quite freeing. It's actually quite freeing to be able to go, I don't actually need everybody to love me. So therefore I don't have to do all the behaviours to try and get somebody to love me. It sounds ludicrous when you put it like that, but for a 2, underneath, it's driving so much of what we are doing. And so just the freedom that comes with that. Oh, they don't like me. Oh, who cares? I'm okay. Maybe menopause gives you that as well, but
Probably a little bit of suffering, I have to say, definitely, as we do get older. It's because we've done the work too, though, so
yeah.
because, like you say, we all know people are kind of, getting more into those wisdom years, are more like a vinegar. They are red wine. So I think it's really, really important that, we're doing the work. What we're going to make sure is that notes, the ways in which you can connect with Sharon, especially if you would like to be able to do the Enneagram test. I would really dig deeper and actually have a session to really understand, because like you say, when you first get it, it's like oh, okay, it can be a little bit confronting. Informative, very informative, and you'll probably have a giggle because you kind of go, oh yes, that is so me. But then that we don't like we only ever like to look good. We don't actually, power is actually in the shadow side, that duality, light and dark, the whole works. We have it in life. And so digging into that a little bit more. So I really encourage you to actually take some time to dig in. Sharon, as we kind of start to kind of wrap up, what I want to know is, what are you excited about as, in these next coming years, as you really continue to add the impact, because you're an amazing woman, and there's so many different books I know, and there's a transition, life and all that as well. What is it that you're excited about on continuing to add?
For me, I'm probably most excited about raising up young leaders and just empowering them, and seeing if I feel like this generation, in some ways, they're maturing slower, but in other ways faster. I feel like they're hitting some of the questions that we probably weren't asking until our second half of life. I feel like some of them are asking them in their mid-30s now, which is quite exciting. So for me, I'm really passionate, and probably really passionate about empowering women. And I just wish that, from a church viewpoint, I just wish everybody had Jesus's viewpoint, because then we wouldn't have things like domestic violence in our world. So that we would actually have a true vision and image of how we are to love one another, and how we are to care for one another, and champion one another and advocate for one another. So I'm really excited about championing young people, But I also want to see just love released. I think that love's the most powerful force on the planet. And I just want that released. I just want, I want to bring it into business. I want to bring it into politics. I just want to bring it into every sphere that I'm engaging in, because I think it's the most powerful force for change that we have. So, so that's me.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, you said earlier on, like, there's so much conflict. There's 50 million people that are, suffering from hunger at the moment in the world. Even here in Australia, we know that the largest growth groups for homelessness in women over 50. And again, like that whole, what would love? What would Jesus do? What would do? If you're more comfortable with using that word in each of the things that we get to do. And we can, and this is another lesson that you got me, Sharon, we can love with boundaries. So sometimes you can kind of go, okay, it's hard to love in that scenario or this or whatever like that, and that you can love with boundaries. You can still be able to help impact people's lives, still have safe boundaries around yourself as well. I think it's really important. I'm excited to see what you do. Already, I watch the Tail Race Church in Launceston, how you have actually championed young leaders through, and we're seeing that now with the baton changeover and Jono stepping into it, but also the whole community of within the church there, those young leaders stepping up in. It's really beautiful, and I see a correlation with that with in direct sales. The opportunity for young to step up and learn and have choices to create something and be able to create massive impact should they choose to. But it is doing it in a self-aware way. So that is why if we think about the theme of today is when you know who you are, everything changes. It's taking responsibility to know who you are. No one's handing it to you. You've got the work and so about that.
Definitely. And look, direct selling is such a great industry for women, and especially for young women. There's, you've got flexibility, creativity. It can be relational, and not only that. I mean, I've seen. I mean, we've benefited from direct sellers. The youth that we work with. We've been able to help them in very tangible ways because of the generosity of direct sellers. So, never underestimate the call, the career path. It's powerful. Women are powerful. We're great connectors. So, it's a great career to go into.
It is, and I love it. It's an amazing one, but I am a little bit biased, but that's okay.
Got to advocate. No one else is going to advocate.
Absolutely. Be proud out loud. We get massive impact. It's one of the most giving that I know. So, it is truly, truly amazing. Let's ask you some questions as we kind of to wrap up. If you were to give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Find a mentor faster than I did. An older voice that believed in me and could help distill some of the voices that were going around me. And I'd probably go for a female leader as opposed to a male leader. Somebody who was wiser and who understood a lot of the gender stuff, so that then they could sort of say, that's not you, this is this operating. So then I wouldn't have personalised so much stuff.
It's great advice, absolutely. What's your book right now?
My favourite book at the moment? Oh, that one's I really struggle with that one because there's just so many that I love. But I do find myself going back to Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart. I do enjoy that one. I think there's so much wisdom in that book. I'm often pulling that apart, trying to understand it.
I love her work. What song do you listen to when you need to feel motivated?
Probably the fight song.
I love that one too, actually. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gonna
What's
take
your
this
favorite?
on. I'm gonna win.
Yes. Man, I can just see you down the tailways. What's your favorite quote?
It would be a Bob Goff one, where he talks about men and women were created to work together, not separate work, but together work. It's a way of love, which is the most powerful force we have on the planet. I
Yeah, I
love
love
that
it.
one because when you really begin to unpack what he's saying, it's just powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And knowing our, knowing trends. I don't think that one of the, and I think it's a generational thing. I'm not sure if it's quite as today as what it was probably when we were building through business. And I know for myself personally, I can talk kind of felt that to be I had to be more like a man. I had to operate more like a man. And so that's why I love your suggestion around getting a mentor. And if you get a female mentor, there are so many more out there in the
yeah,
world now that are to share their
yeah,
wisdom than what we're coming through.
yeah,
Most of the coaches, most of the leaders and mentors that we needed to lean into were men, because that's ahead of us. But now there are so many women. If you're a woman, listen to this. There are so many women ahead of you into, um, into those female mentors and those people who will speak truth into your life. Sharon's one of them for me, that they will actually speak truth into your life. I'm having a conversation with Sharon. There'll be many times she will tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
I think it's that we didn't have a lot of memory of women in leadership. I mean, like Tassie only just got its first female statue. What was it, 2 years ago? It's a statue of a female convict. That only happened a couple of years ago. In Victoria, there are more statues of animals and fairy nymphs as
Yep.
than there are of women. So, like in our culture, we still don't have a lot of female memory of women in all sorts of leadership positions. So it makes it hard. And then I think one of the challenges for the younger generation is that sometimes I feel like they're compromising some of their, I don't know, influences, if you want to put it that way. I kind of go, you really want to follow, you really want to. It feels like a step backwards for women as opposed to a step forwards because I feel like there's some areas of compromise there. So I don't know. I would be careful about who you choose. I would find somebody who had some understanding of how to use power and leadership and had a brain on their head. Can you say that?
Yeah, for good and for impact. So people that actually are for good and for impact. I get what you're saying because it is so easy to just hit follow, even with regards to say social media and whatever like that. Really, I think this again to the whole thing today. When you know yourself, everything changes. Like when you
Yeah.
truly know who you are, what you want to stand for, what you're passionate about, and the impact you want to make in the world, the choices you make, who you have in your world, from a speaking into you. So, and that is from the accounts you follow, podcasts you listen to, books you read,
Yeah.
the whole lot, the music you listen. We were an Uber in weeks ago, and asked the guy to turn off the radio because the language was like at a nervous system level. I had a reaction to it. It was like so being you wiser with this you
Yeah.
make all of those things when you have the right people speaking into your life. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's powerful. Thank you, my friend. It has been
Thank
so
you.
awesome. We will make sure that your contact details. I'm going to really, really encourage you, if you're watching this, take the time to find more about Anita. Take the time to really get to know yourself. And I also encourage you to take the time to check in because I think she's an amazing person. She's got some absolutely fantastic wisdom that comes out of her heart and mind. too, if you want to dig deeper into truly understanding who you are, there's no better person than to be on the journey. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bless you. Thank you.